Looks like there's nobody here. I think I'm live. Am I live? I'm live. Uh, yeah, this is bizarre day. Um, hmm. This should be working. You should be able to see this, I hope. Um, okay, I see there are some people here showing up. So hopefully it's going to work now. If it continues to give us problems, guys, we'll just reschedule it. I had a really good discussion lined up, and it's been an hour trying to get it to work. It's kind of crazy. I will have to leave in about an hour and 15 minutes from now for sure. Um, but for those of you just joining, I guess I'll just begin from the beginning again. I don't think I could share things the same way. I think we'll just see if this works. And that's, hmm. I'm trying to find, well, we'll just do it this way. Okay, so I'm sharing my YouTube page here, but I'm trying to find the short that I shared earlier. But it's not really a short, but this
he just said in his letters that had it not been for her and the power that she had over him, she pulled at him constantly, that his family would still be alive today. I don't think he's doing well right now. He has finally realized that he's going to be there for the rest of his life. He just said in his letters that had.
So that is Cheryln Cadle. So yeah, guys, I'm really sorry. I don't know what's going on today. I don't know how to invite people on the YouTube thing. That's why I use StreamYard. There is a lot of good things on the YouTube thing that I could see that I can't see on StreamYard. And YouTube is free. I might just have to keep using it this way. But hey, Gerald, I'm glad you made it. I feel like I lost a bunch of people because of all the technical difficulties. Let me see if I can share the Kindle book still. This might work. I might be able to share this still. Let's see. Ooh, it does work. But I can't tell if, well, let me just see. Yep, it does work. So that's good. Hey, Charlotte, I'm glad you made it back. It's been an afternoon, I guess. I was actually having a pretty decent day. I got a bunch of stuff done that I needed to get done. But when I found out about this book, my first thought was, wasn't that the lady? Hey, crazy cat, how are you today? Was like, wasn't this the lady who had the book about the Chris Watts letters, the one that got like taken down off of Amazon for plagiarism of all things? I don't know to the extent of that plagiarism, how much she stole or if it was intentional or not. I mean, it could have been, maybe she didn't think that anybody was going to buy her book and find out. I don't know. I haven't researched into it very much. But one of the things I heard in this book was, you just read through some of this and she talks about how she knows for sure that Chris Watts met Nichol Kessinger a whole year before they say she actually met. And if you think about it, when you think of the relationship that lasted 6 weeks, and then you try to like think about, well, how or why would they like discuss murder together in such a short period of time? And I don't think that that's a long enough time for people to even like have a conversation like that without scaring off the other, you know? But a year, that's enough time, you know? And the thing with all of this speculation and all of these rumors, when you hear somebody say, "Hey, I've heard this exactly from this came directly from Chris Watts, so it has to be absolutely true." Well, we know that guy's a liar. We've watched him lie. We've heard him lie. We know he's a liar. So even if it comes directly from him, can we trust the information? But the author of this book, um, she has issues with credibility also because her last book got pulled from Amazon for plagiarism. And, I mean, when I'm reading through this, it sounds good. I mean, I don't get bored when I'm reading it. Until I get to the interview that takes up most of the book. But um Olga, you're getting kicked again. It's probably maybe you need to restart your computer. Um, is anybody else getting kicked off of here? Crazy Cat's been watching all of the coworker stuff, it sounds like. And oh, that guy is scary. I kind of got bored after he confessed. I mean, not I guess bored is the wrong word. I just didn't want to hear any more about it anymore. I kind of got where I liked that there was a possibility that maybe he didn't do it. Um, it made it interesting to me and not just some really, a really good example of human depravity. That guy is a monster for real. And he enjoyed it. And we saw the pictures of him smiling afterwards. Yeah, I agree. We don't have to talk about Koberger, but Chris Watts is also a monster. Oh, yes. This brother 4550, or wait, brother 455 other maybe. Uh, Asks, was this the book that was removed from Amazon for plagiarism? And it was Watts related. Yes, it was the book on the Chris Watts letters. So the book was essentially written as letters from Chris Watts. I don't think it had letters that she wrote to Chris in it, just the ones that he sent her. And, there was some pretty intense stuff in that book. And I thought it was really well done until it got pulled, until I heard that had been pulled for plagiarism of all things. Um, you know, so according to this author in this new book of hers, um, you got to picture this. It's early 2017. Shanann Watts is recovering from neck surgery. Her parents have moved into their home to help with the kids while she recovers. They're staying in the basement. It's the same basement that Chris Watts works out in. And with his workout space occupied, Chris Watts has to join a local health club, a gym. And he's just a guy looking for a gym. He wants to be in shape. Now, fast forward to a quintessential American summer night. It's the 4th of July in 2017. The fireworks are exploding overhead. Um, Chris and Shanann and their little girls are all together. It's, a cute, perfect little family enjoying the spectacle. Um, it's a moment of normalcy. They have a normal life. This is what, people want a life like this. It's just a regular, everyday, run of the mill Nobody's paying attention to me live, And then, according to Chris Watts himself, in later prison conversations, Nichol Kessinger appeared. He claims that Nichol Kessinger walked right up to his wife and introduced herself to Shanann. Think about that for a second. This isn't a chance encounter. This isn't a water cooler discussion at work like we've heard 1,000 times. This is completely different. This is Nichol Kessinger inserting herself directly into the Watts family unit, face to face with Shanann. And this happened over a year before the murders. Chris Watts alleges this was the second time that they had met. The first had been at the gym he joined earlier that year in 2017. Olga, I'm really sorry you're having issues. I hope nobody else is having issues. If somebody else is having issues, please let us know. Maybe I don't think I can restart mine again. But if everyone's having problems, maybe I'll just try to do this tomorrow night or something. I'm not sure, but it seems to be working from my perspective here. I was having issues on StreamYard. Okay, well, I'm glad it's working. Olga, I hope you get it working. Maybe try a different device also. It might change or help in some way. So, where was I? Yes, Chris Watts insists that he met Nichol Kessinger in 2017, not in 2018. And until a couple days ago, when I was looking at this book, I had assumed that I had heard that that 2017 date was a typo of some sort. Um, and once I started looking it up, I find out that it was somebody from the Frederick County Police Department that said it was a typo, but I don't see it anywhere like officially that it was a typo. It's just like on third-party websites. Other YouTube channels have said it and things like that. And somebody told me that DA Rourke actually said, no, we found that in Nichol Kessinger's phone. I also have not found that specific information. And, I think, brother, you're right there in the sense that it has been said that she was searching Shanann Watts, but it makes a big difference if that was 9/11/2018, because this would be after the murders happened. This would be a different scenario. But if it really was 2017, it changes everything. There's some crazy stuff in this book, you guys. I'm not gonna like tell you to buy it or don't buy it. Um, I don't know if it's factual. I can say that for sure. I don't know how true it is. But there's some interesting things in here. Like I was going to talk about this a little bit later, but we'll talk about this now. So I'm going to read some of this. I think this is the chapter. I know people talk about how Nichol Kessinger was a part of some dark thing and she's part of the OTO and things like that. Well, what is said in this chapter, I hope it's this chapter, because I was reading it, some of it, it kind of creeps me out. But I'm just going to kind of read some of this word for word. I think this might be it. Actually, I don't know this is it. I don't think this is it. Hold on a sec. I got to shrink the letters a little bit, guys. I can't see what we're talking about here. No, this is not the chapter. I hope I can find it. Bad theories. Maybe that's it. Okay, I think this is it. Yeah. Now is where we get to the truth and theories. Everything Christopher Watts confessed to me in my book, The Murders of Chris Watts, that was the letters book, I believe, the letters from Chris Watts, I think. If you have not read it, she suggests you do so. I think you can't buy this book anymore, but you can find it online and still read it, I think. She goes on to say, later he would accuse me of not putting his testimony in the book. However, I did. He wrote about his testimony, and he was never deceived or manipulated. Again, he chose to blame someone else. This time it happened to be me. He knew from the very first letter he received from me that I intended, or that I wanted to write a book about this story. Later, when we met, I made it clear I would be the last say about what went into the book. So there's some typos in this. I think that doesn't sound like good English to me. Retrospectively speaking, I was kind to him and his family. I have never had any intentions but to be kind to Shanann and her family. I was contacted by someone using an alias that fed me the theory she claimed was coming from Chris himself. Let me skip ahead. I think it gets better. Maybe this isn't the chapter either. I got to shrink the letters a little more. Nope. Maybe this isn't it. I don't know. There is a chapter in this book about the dark magic and the stones that she uses. There's like names for the different types of beliefs she had. There was a name of a business that she supposedly owned, and I don't think that's it. But in the chapter that I read, I believe she said that she was giving Chris Watts some kind of drink that was an hallucinatory, some kind of thing. But I'm trying to think, I haven't read the whole book, but maybe it's the missing chapter. Let's see if this is it. Yeah, this is it. Let me just skim. The pagan religion. Yeah, okay, this one's it. This is it. Sorry, guys. Let me just check the chat real quick before I get too far. Olga, I'm so sorry you're having problems. Yeah, this book was written by Cheryln Cadle. And as I've said, I don't know how factual it is. It is an interesting book to read. You'll just have to make your own judgment and remember that sometimes facts get misrepresented as facts. Speculations get misrepresented as fact. And she could be watching this and being like, whammo. I don't know. I don't think she did that kind of magic. And when they're talking about pagans and stuff like that, I don't think they are like, doing blood sacrifices. They're just not that type of magic, I don't think. But I'm going to go ahead and read through some of this. While I believe there was involvement by NK in my book, The Murders of Christopher Watts, I left out a chapter of my book. At that time, I felt I should not get involved with it. However, I am going to share that chapter with you now. Please understand this let me fix that, is my theory after much research and conferring with others. I feel most of this can 100% be backed up. This is the missing chapter that was supposed to be in the murders of Christopher Watts. Was there a dark spirit? After the sentencings and months after Christopher was in prison, some things have surfaced to cause me to pause and take notice. I think some things can maybe prove there was some dark activity going on. Suppose you take a man who has been completely passive and easygoing in his life by all who know him and think he's great, including his wife. Uh, how is it explained that over the course of a few weeks he changes into a monster, unleashes the most horrific act possible, and kills a pregnant wife and his two little daughters? Does it happen like that, or is there more to it? Through research, I have found some very interesting information about NK. The FBI may already know these things. However, since Christopher confessed, they didn't need to look further. From the beginning, he protected her with all of his might. If the FBI knows these things about her, bring it they did not bring it public. Another possible typo. I feel we did not see all of her interviews. It's possible they found out more and they didn't feel it had anything to do with the murders. I'm sure NK did not tell them she was making mind altering drinks for him, drinks that possibly could control his mind. Let me explain. After you read this information, decide for yourself if it has anything to do with what Christopher did. If you think she was involved in any way, listen, I am in no way implying Christopher is innocent. He had a choice to make and he murdered his family. However, was his mind altered? Nikki was involved in a movement called Gia worship, the new pagan religion. You can find more on this at this website that I can't pronounce, environmentology.com. Nichol Kessinger had a business in Aurora, Colorado called Seda Consulting LLC at Aurora Avenue in Aurora, Colorado. This is a fact. And I just want to say that I can't verify this fact. So I don't know about you guys. I'm going to take a second here to check the chat. Has anybody been able to verify that she owned a business of any kind? Because I haven't seen anything to suggest that she actually did, other than other people just saying it. It should be public record, and if it's public record, more than one person would be able to verify it. Brother says, didn't Chris Watts say that dark things happened at NK's house? Yeah, he says that in an interview with Tammy, and he says there was dark things. And then Tammy doesn't even ask, well, what kind of dark things? She just goes on to the next question, like she just totally missed it. Yeah. Let's see. I'm just trying to scan the chat, guys. Gerald says, I think they knew of each other before they started fooling around. That's probably why they were so love struck. And, it just seems like that affair was so fast that it made no sense that they would help each other commit murder to me. But if this is true, that she actually met them a year before and they were actually hanging out at the gym that whole time, it's a much bigger affair. Olga, can you try logging in maybe on a tablet or something else? Maybe that'll help. I'm going to go back to this and read some more. Okay, where was I? Oh, yeah, the Colorado, Aurora, Colorado. This is a fact. Christopher said he knew nothing about this business. Follow me here. Seda is a company based on an Indian guru named Setha Narayani Raju. I butchered that name and I'm sorry. He created the cult and claimed to be God. He supposedly performed miracles and claimed he was omnipresent, claimed he could heal, and all of these disasters he could make happen because he was recruiting all of these cult members. This became a trend across Colorado for 20 to 30 somethings. Christopher knew enough to know it was very popular. Satya is a very important concept in virtue and a virtue in Indian religions. Sata means truth, but the Latin word means Satan. In Greek mythology, Satya means Satan as well. I can't read that sentence. That's lame. This cult is all over the world being used as counseling when they are brainwashing and hypnotizing their clients until they are all broken down so they can build them up to be cult members and recruit others. Keep in mind, NK had this counseling business. So I'm curious, as I'm reading this, where is this going? Like, she's got these like specific things. It sounds credible, sounds like it might be real. You may find it interesting that just 3 days after the murders and Christopher had talked to the FBI, NK suddenly closed her business. We do not know if she closed it because she didn't want to be found out or if she was trying to avoid immediate attention. And of course, there could be other reasons, but it is odd. She did not want them to know she made drinks for Christopher to drink. Christopher said that he was unaware of what she was into, but knew she kept many things from him. Interestingly, he told me she had crystals all over her house. He said she would not go anywhere without some of her crystals. She collected crystals. He was not aware of why, but I believe it was for much more of a reason than he thought. Christopher recalled that when they were in the mountains, she would take out a crystal, hold it toward the sky, and chant. When he questioned her about what she was doing, she said she was talking to her grandmother who had passed on. He recalled in the mountains, she would disappear for hours. He didn't know what she was doing during that time. I asked Christopher if he was searching for a diamond for NK. Discovery said he was searching for diamonds on the internet. He says he never looked for diamonds for NK. He was searching for a certain crystal that she wanted. But, if you're thinking about this like me, you're finding this hard to believe, right? I don't see a person going out, with the evil intent, holding up a crystal into the sky and trying to chant to your ancestor. Like, that sounds personal and like something done out of love, and you miss that person. It's not something designed to like brainwash somebody. But the way this story is kind of going, it makes me wonder if that's what she was really doing. Maybe she was out there chanting this chant, asking something that we don't understand what it actually is to control Chris's mind. That's a little bit too much sci-fi fantasy, I guess. It wouldn't really be sci-fi, it would be fantasy for me. I don't believe it. Even if she says Chris told her this directly, I just don't believe it. Doesn't mean he didn't say it. But if you read this whole thing, I mean, there's like all kinds of crazy stuff in here. And then I know somebody in one of my subscribers has mentioned this devil's breath thing before, and there's a recipe for it here in this book. Gerald says, my partner used to be a prison doctor in Adelaide, and he said the people there are so much dumber than your average Joe. And I think I've heard that before in movies too, like where they always say the criminals are the dumb ones because they're the ones in prison. The smart ones don't get caught. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, they might have been smart and just messed up one time. But I think if anybody was like using their brain, you're not going to want to commit a crime, especially, even a small crime that can get you like 6 months. That's a long time for something so small. Like I could not do it. I couldn't commit even like, a crime like what Chris Watts did. I couldn't do that for $1 billion. I wouldn't do it for any amount of money. But there's some really interesting stuff in this book. I think this was another good one too. I've only kind of read through some of it. But this part at the end is great. Like it's pretty good the first couple chapters. And then it gets into this stuff, which takes, I guess if you wanted an easy to read like transcript, this would probably be the one to read, except for, you got to make sure this is what they're actually saying somehow. But it's very long. If you can see me scrolling, this is like almost 100 pages. See, it starts on, it says 4 hours and 38 minutes left in the chapter. The other chapters are like 20 minutes at most. I think this was a filler chapter to make the book feel like a real book. But it's a huge chapter. And I don't think that she points out anything specific in this that, you should look at. And I haven't read through it all because I've heard this discussion before. But if you get, if you look at the end, she goes on to say, again, I want to say this narrative in this book is my opinion and does not reflect the opinions of others. This is my theory, and I'm not claiming that this is what happened. This is just my opinion. But it's more than an opinion if you're getting firsthand accounts of this stuff happening. I don't know. I don't know what to make of this book, to be honest. It's definitely an interesting story. So what do you guys think about the parts that I've shared with you? Is this something you guys are going to read, or is it just going to be more like a tabloid gossip kind of story that you won't read? Gerald says NK must have been into zodiacs as well. I checked that she's a Cancer and Chris Watts is a Taurus, and they are apparently highly compatible. Maybe that motivated her too. Brother wants to see the text larger. I could do that. It's just hard to it's hard for me to read because I got this giant TV thing that's sitting in my closet. So that I can put this back here and like, you know, it's actually more for whenever I record shorts, because then I can use a green screen. For that, Olga asked if I read Murders of Watts. I think that was that the Chris Watts letters book, or was that a separate book? Because I read the one with the Chris Watts letters in it. I read most of it, and I remember thinking, "Oh my God, did he really do that?" Because they were the way he was describing the way they like slammed the door and all of this stuff. Like, I think that was part of the plagiarized stuff. Gerald says Taurus is Earth, Capricorn is also Earth, but Cancer is water. You know, that stuff has always kind of confused me. I think you could be like, if you're like a one sign, then you got your rising signs, and then you got your like, um, you know, wind, water, fire, earth signs on top of that. And then there's also metal and um, I don't know what else, but it gets really complicated. But here I can make the text larger, and then I can skip back to that chapter and just leave it on the screen, and you can read some more of it. The missing chapter. So I can't share all of it, because I have to switch back to the YouTube screen. But you can see some of this, and you can read some of it, and I'll change the page here in a couple minutes if you want. But let's see, where was I? So I've got I really wanted to spend most of the time talking about whether or not they actually met in 2017. Has anybody heard like DA Rourke say specifically that they saw or that they found this information that Nichol Kessinger met Chris Watts in 2017 on Nichol Kessinger's phone? Because I can't seem to find that. I think I've heard it once, but I can't find it again. It's kind of weird. It just makes me wonder. I've heard so many different things that maybe it's all getting like discombobulated in my mind, and I can't remember which ones are real and not real. I swear they said that the 2017 was a typo. I can't say for sure who said it though. But let's see. Yeah, we've got to make sure we're approaching all of this information with skepticism and critical thinking. Just because somebody says it's true doesn't make it true. Even if they get firsthand information from somebody, it's still secondhand information to you. Even if it comes directly from Chris Watts himself, if it's a TV broadcast, it still doesn't make it real because we know he's a liar. When we examine claims like these, we also need to consider the sources. When discussing alternate narratives in the Chris Watts case, we need to examine the primary source of where the information comes from. In this case, it's Cheryln Cadle. Cadle has published multiple books claiming to contain exclusive communication with Chris Watts from prison, but her credibility has been severely compromised by major plagiarism scandal that, you know, from that book from 2019's Letters from Christopher. So I don't think I've read the other book. I did read the Letters book. The book that she supposedly stole from was called His Garden by Anne K. Howard. It was about a serial killer named William Devon Howell. And she was passing off quotes from him as if they came from Chris Watts. So something I've been wondering, because I haven't looked into this plagiarism scandal too much. I just, as soon as I heard it was plagiarism, I just ignored it. Really, I stopped reading that book. I stopped talking about pieces of that book. Gerald says, I definitely think NK knew about Chris in 2017. She probably knew Shanann from Facebook or Thrive and started stalking her and got a crush on Chris. That makes sense, you know. I kind of agree that that could have happened. So Cadle supposedly lifted entire passages word for word, including personal reflections that did I get it? Working. Is it working? Am I back? Can you guys hear me? Nobody can hear me. Okay. So at least a couple of people can hear me. Yeah, I don't know what's going on today. I thought it was StreamYard. Now I'm thinking maybe it's YouTube and StreamYard. I don't know why you can't hear me, Olga. But it looks like I'm streaming. It shows there's 10 people here. So I don't know. I guess I'll just go through my notes here real quick and kind of hopefully finish this. I might just redo this whole thing tomorrow, but it'll be late, and then you guys can watch the replay. Because I won't get home until it's pretty late already. So where was I? Oh yeah, we were talking about the plagiarism and whether or not we should believe. Sorry. They need to make headphones that don't make your ears itch. After like so long, your ears start to sweat and to get all like weird. Well, I'm going to try to at least give you guys some closure today. If it goes out again, we'll just stop. But I do have to leave by, I would say I'm aiming for 5:15, but I might be able to stretch it out till 5:30. But I will have to leave by 5:30. It's breaking up. What is going on?